All right, well, good evening and welcome to the launch of the Office for Export and Racing's strategic plan for 2021 to 25. Tim Nicholas is my name, and I'll be your MC for this evening. For those who don't know me, I'm the Director of Corporate Strategy and Investment at the Office for Export and Racing. And what does that mean? I basically look after corporate, I look after industry insights, and I look after the administration of our grants program. So if you want to talk about industry insights or grants, please come and talk to me afterwards. If you want to talk about corporate services, you are my favourite people, and definitely come and talk to me afterwards, because that's what I love. That's probably enough about me. I mean, how good's this? Actually presenting and meeting people face to face, and of course Zoom as well for those of you who couldn't make it. So hello to those people watching online. But great to be back in a room full of passionate Rexport and Racing officials and stakeholders. Can you believe it's been over 18 months since we've had one of these networking functions, and quite a lot has happened in that period. A special welcome to the Honourable Corey Wingard, Minister for Infrastructure and Transport, Minister for Rexport and Racing, and the member for Gibson. The senior management of state government agencies and representatives from the Game On Governance Group, representatives of our state sporting and recreation organisations, representatives of our racing codes, and members of OR's BMA committee and risk and audit committees, as well as members of local government and the education sectors. It's also great, as I said before, to welcome our viewers on Zoom, which has become quite the norm over the last 18 or so months. Some small housekeeping reminders to begin the evening. If you haven't done so already, please check in. There's QR check-ins, and there's a pen and book at the door as well, if you don't have those facilities. The toilets are located just out the entrance where you came in. The oval is strictly non-smoking. If you need a smoke, you'll need to leave the stadium altogether. In the case of an emergency, please follow the directions of the Adelaide Oval staff. Just ask that you keep your phones on silent. Note that we've got a photographer floating around, so don't be off-put and smile, that'd be nice. And there's a ticket validator somewhere in the room. I'm not sure quite where it is, over there. For those of you who parked underneath, validate your ticket and you'll get the cheap parking. And most importantly, drinks will be available all evening, so help yourself, and the food service will resume following the formal proceedings. What an exciting time for sport and rec in South Australia. Along with launching our strategic plan, we've also got some incredible events to look forward to. Just here on Saturday, we'll see the Crows women tackle their third grand final out of 5 years. Pretty amazing effort, really, and could Erin really win 3 of the best on ground in the grand final awards? Pretty amazing effort, really. I looked up today what that medal was called, and it's called the best on ground in the AFL Women's Grand Final. I think after Saturday we might know what it's going to be called when Erin retires, perhaps. Adelaide has successfully won a bid to host as a host city for the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2023, which is a fantastic coup for the state. And the countdown's on. Can you believe we're only less than 100 days before we get to the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics? I mean, who would have thought that? Over the last 18 months that we've had. And now I'd like to invite Uncle Mickey O'Brien to the stage for a welcome to country. Thanks, Uncle Mickey.
Hey, tell you, Tim. So, Nina Money. Gee. We live on the Kaurna lands, and language is very important. You should know the language of the peoples whose land you're on. And the Kaurna people have been here for tens of thousands of years. So it's simple. Nina Mani is hello, and your response would be Mani ai. So, Nina Mani? Good. So now you know the language. Next time I come, I'll be asking, because What it really means is you're all fat anyway, so I'll get to have some fun with it anyway. No, it does mean that, but it's meaning the good fat. It means the good meat off the bone, meaning good health, and health is very important, as we know. Tuila Maniputnik, Tuila Wakanapadnik, Nai Gana, Biako, Mankalankla, Marawachanga, Gana Mina, Minyana Mani Putaji, Nai Nari Kamatpi Maricha, Nai Wangadi Mani Budni, Gana Yata Nair Diata, Tandawama, Tandendanga, SA Reckon Sport, Balti, Bamba Bambaya. So, welcome to the lands of the Kaurna people, whose lands go to Mount Lofty, to Crystal Brook, to Cape Jervis, to the water's edge. But today we stand or sit upon the land of being the Kangaroo Plains, being Adelaide Oval, Adelaide being the dreaming place of the big red kangaroo, North Adelaide being the emu land or place. So we sit right in the middle there because Victoria Square is also the shield of the Kaurna people. But when we do a welcome, we do say hello, we do say, are you well? But it's saying, where have you been? What have you been doing? Because our face tells us where we've been, but our heart tells us where to go. What does that mean? Well, that means we can collect knowledge and wisdom, but unless we connect it to our hearts, we'll do the wrong with it, because our heart enables us to do good with that knowledge and wisdom. So although I'm an ambassador of the Kaurna people and a descendant, it is an honour to welcome, because you are the important people when you come to a place. Because knowledge and wisdom is shared by all people. Our people knew that when you bring cultures together, you have greater knowledge and wisdom. Now today it's wonderful that I can be a part of this launch of this strategic plan, and what makes it very interesting is obviously about the fact that it's about doing movement or exercise all the time. Our people were great at doing exercise, whether it be indirectly or directly. Today you would probably notice that I have a number of items with me. Well, some of these items are also sporting items. Some of you may know some of these sporting items and may even recognise them because we carried these things with us, whether they be for learning purposes or whether they be for hunting and teaching purposes or obviously for fun. And this one here that I wear being the Gardi Whopper, does anybody know what sport that would be? It's a national sport, it's an international sport, and we probably developed it because it's recorded by a colonialist named Cawthorne, and he recorded not only the game itself, but he recorded or drew a picture of them playing the game. They played it with 100 people, naked. Yeah, true. And does anybody know this game? No. Sorry? No, if I show you how it's used, where's Corey? There he is. There, Corey, you ready? Hands catch. So it's thrown by the feathers. Corey, throw it back. He was Minister for Sport, wasn't he? But, so, anybody now got an idea? No, darts would be like that. Not javelin. Not quoits. Oh God, we're going to be here forever. It's rugby. So we played a form of rugby. And this is what the game was. So if you had the Gardi Whopper, you would be tackled. And the idea was to throw it to somebody else so that they would tackle the other person. And so that was one of those games. But it's also a part of my headdress. The other one is this one. Hopefully you know this one because it's connected to this actual ground. They used to get 20,000 people playing this game, or not 20,000 people playing, but watching this game here, called Bando. Does anybody know what it's made of? Possum skin. And it was filled with crushed coal or burning embers, crushed after they'd stopped burning, obviously, ashes. And so it was football, and it was played out on this field out here, and we would kick that just like this. There you go. Good catch. And so these were parts of our nature and our game because they taught us skills to hunt and so forth. And so it was really important because that was those teaching tools that our people had. And because we couldn't go back and get these things, we always had to carry them with us. because you would travel long distances into the bush to get your food and tucker and so forth. So they're just some examples. And so, like I said, our people have been doing these things for a long time, and I believe it's something that we should all do in continuing, our life's journeys. So I want to leave you these last words because you're not here to listen to me, which is my unjaga, nachi yukandaya, nachi yakandaya, padnyandu wadu, which is saying we are all brothers and sisters. Recognise cultures do bring us together. Let us walk the land, observe, listen, do it together in harmony, but also never say goodbye. Always say see you later, because when we see somebody, it's not just the physical, it's also the spiritual, because we leave something with each other that lasts forever. And just one final interesting bit, a fellow football player of mine, Georgie's out here, and as Tim mentioned about Erin Phillips, well, we actually played football with Erin on Adelaide Oval when she was a lot younger, and we used to play in the old fellas game. What was it called, George? Slow down, that was it. So she is a wonderful sports person, and I do wish her all the well, particularly this weekend. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Akami. That's fantastic. Welcome. I imagine in those games Erin was wearing the wrong colours, but she's in the right colours now, which is really good. And when her statue gets built, she's going to have the crow stripes on. It's now my pleasure to introduce to the stage the Honourable Corey Wingard, Minister of Infrastructure and Transport, Minister for Recreation, Sport and Racing, and the member for Gibson. Thanks, Minister.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much, and thank you to Uncle Mickey as well. A wonderful welcome to country. And coincidentally, I think some of the things he's talked about there as far as the journey of the Aboriginal people over tens of thousands of years brings us to this point here too. And I'd like to congratulate everyone involved for picking up and running with the baton, or the possum skin that was kicked around here, as we work on our strategic plan as well. And again, it had a lot of the cultural inputs that he talked about, of collaboration, talking and working together. So it really is another journey. Can I just start by saying how great it is to be meeting face to face again after so long of Zoom meetings. I apologise for any interrupted meetings or talking without my volume on that you may have got along the way, but I'd just like to thank everyone for their engagement and involvement over the last 12 to 18 months. I know how tough it's been for everyone, and how proud I am personally of the sporting industries and sporting bodies and sporting groups for the work they did through COVID. Again, preaching to the converted in this room and online here today. But what we found through COVID, and the health officials were very quick to point out how important sport and being active was through COVID-19 to keep people healthy, and we looked at every turn to make sure people could get out and get active. But we also found, of course, again, how you'd all be aware, how important it is from the social aspect of mental health to be involved in sporting groups and sporting clubs, and we were very conscious of trying to get those groups and clubs opened and activated so people could have the benefits there as well. As I said, it's a pleasure to be here to launch the strategic plan. Of course, it ties in with Game On, the infrastructure plan, and the grants review, and again I thank everyone for their involvement with that. It is delightful, and it was talked about earlier with Tim as well, but even just walking over the bridge and seeing the works that are going on at Memorial Drive and the big infrastructure spend we're having in sport, and that really hinges around the plan and the work that the office has done to put that plan in place. It enabled us to go to the Treasurer and talk about what we needed here in South Australia and put forward a case as to the reason why. And at the last budget, of course, we had some $214 million committed to sport, which we've been rolling out those projects, which is great, from the elite level right the way down through to the grassroots level. That goes with the 170 odd million that we'd already spent on sport. So since coming to government, we've spent $390 million on sport, which I think has been truly fantastic. But again, more importantly, it's been spent and invested against a plan. So we've got some bigger picture items that you'd be aware of that we want to deliver on, but then also that middle tier and the local community facilities too, which have been greatly appreciated. As a bit of a result of that, of course, our investment in areas like Memorial Drive, of course, the roof enabled us to get the Adelaide International and put us at the forefront of being able to secure events like the Day at the Drive, bringing the three best men's players in the world to Adelaide, the three best women's players to the world in Adelaide, and then we just throw Serena Williams in, arguably the greatest ever player, into that mix as well. So it was a really great outcome. So we think those investments are playing a big role in helping grow the economy, but also getting people more active. As you'll all be aware, a big part of our strategic plan is about getting people active and getting them actually doing more exercise. We know the health benefits that come with that, and when we have a look in particular at the youth in South Australia, and some 14% are getting the required amount of exercise, and we know that that's something that we really need to turn around again, which is why we're making those investments and why we're putting together this strategic plan. So that is really important. Some of the other things that we're really keen to drive, of course, I've mentioned the improvements in physical and mental health and social health and wellbeing as well, and it's been really great to work with wellbeing. Again, the office has done some great work through the Game On program, engaging all of those other agencies through government to make sure that we're delivering the outcomes that we need. Active lives obviously is one of the key focuses that we have through our strategic plan. Places and spaces as well. I've talked about the infrastructure investment as well. And again, working across agencies, sport on its own often, or sport, rec and racing on its own is not a big agency, but what we've been able to do and the way that we've leveraged that investment through government and through the Treasurer has been partnering again with other agencies as well. And we look at some of the investments we've made through the agency like Dew and the trails and the bike opportunities that we've been able to evolve, the opening of the reservoirs. These sorts of initiatives have been a really great partnership where sport and rec has been able to benefit through partnering with other agencies so we can get the full benefit. Sporting excellence as well, of course, we're looking to establish world high-class performances and performance centres as well. The National Centre for Sport Aerodynamics is a key focus of ours out there at Gepps Cross. What we have seen through COVID as well, the world over, and if you think about the globe, traditionally South Australia or Australia a long way from the Northern Hemisphere where so much happens. We come down to Australia, the eastern seaboard is where there's a lot of activity as well, and South Australia is a step away again. So we have been disadvantaged by that tyranny of distance. But through COVID, what's happened has been a real focus on, well, things aren't so safe in the Northern Hemisphere, so Australia looks like a really good place. And then when you look at Australia, you come across to South Australia, and we've done so very well as a collective through COVID. People are really casting an eye on our city, on our state, and as we're investing in these infrastructure projects, we're looking at opportunities for hubs and bubbles and training centres, and it's really proving to be exceptionally good, again through the High Marsh investment and the State Sports Park investment in soccer or football out there, the opportunities that are starting to present themselves of international teams and countries that want to come and train and prepare here, hub here, bubble here if you like. Those opportunities are really leaping forward for us, so we're really keen to work with many more on that front. So the business opportunities we think are outstanding as well, and we really look forward to working in the sporting business space as well. But all in all, I really want to commend everyone from the Office of Rec and Sport for the great work they've done in putting these initiatives together and then coming forward with our strategic plan, which Kylie from the Office of Rec and Sport, of course, will talk about a little bit more later. But again, I'd like to finish by taking the opportunity to thank each and every one of you in this room for the great work you do. I know in all sectors of the sport, recreation and racing industry, everyone has to and does go over and above. And I think we're getting some really great results. Some of the things that you'll see popping up around the state, in particular as far as infrastructure is concerned, and then the ensuing opportunities, I think are really great for South Australia and puts us in an incredibly strong position. So with that, again, I'd like to thank the Office of Rec and Sport team for all the work they've done, and I would like now for you to have a look at the strategic plan highlights video, which we're about to play for you now. Thank you very much.
I'm pumped now, that's great. I'd now like to welcome the rest of the executive from the Office of Export and Racing to join me on stage, and we'll go through some further details of each aspect of the plan. Without further ado, the Chief Executive of the Office of Export and Racing, Kylie Taylor.
Happens every year that I've got to bend down the microphone. I need to get some shorter staff. Welcome everybody. I'd just like to acknowledge that we are meeting on Kaurna land, and unfortunately Uncle Mickey had to leave, but wow, doesn't he do a great job? I've known Uncle Mickey for such a long time, and I've heard him do a truckload of welcome to countries, and I learn something new every time. And he is a sport person. I know he's worked with a lot of your organisations, he's made videos, he's done all sorts of things, so he's super committed. And probably the next point I'd like to make is in terms of the game that's going to happen here on Saturday. I do say go Crows, but I do hope that Erin's body lasts long enough so that she does get back in the Port Adelaide Guernsey. I'm on the Crows women because unfortunately they don't have the Port Adelaide don't have a women's team, but hopefully we'll see that again soon. Minister Wingard, great to have you here as always. We are so fortunate. Most of you know Minister Wingard's background. He's worked in sport his entire life, so you couldn't get a more passionate minister, and he certainly has gone into bat for the industry and the sector, and that's played out in the record investment. Again, a lot of you know I've been around for a really long time, and I've never seen investment like this in sport and recreation. So that's all super exciting. So onto just our strategic plan in a little bit more detail. And this is actually, I've got to make sure I'm looking at the same slide. So what you'll see, and I know that you all go through the same process of reviewing your strategic plan every few years, and by and large your business is your business, okay? Not a heap changes. If you're a sporting organisation, you're always going to have member services, you're always going to run competitions, you need to look after your volunteers, you need to have good governance. There's certain things in your plan that will always be there, it won't change radically. And what you'll probably see in this plan is it looks pretty similar, like a lot of the things when we dig down, look similar to our last plan. But what I do want to do when I invite each of the executive up, I think it's important that you put a name to the face of the people who are responsible for certain areas in the business. And having said that, each executive will present a section of the plan. That doesn't mean that they're exclusively responsible for that bit of the plan. Because as an agency, if we want to get outcomes, we need to work together and we need to work across all aspects of the business. So while they will present bits of the plan, it doesn't mean they're solely responsible. It's just important that you can put a face to people's names. And as I said, I'd like to share some more information with you. When they do talk about their plan, one of the things that I've asked them to do is talk about the nuances of the new plan, which are nuanced but are significant differences in the way that we're going to do our business moving forward. So first up, our vision is a little bit broader than it might have been before. Active state, unquestionably, we would all say that we're in here with aspirations about an active state. And this probably goes to something that Uncle Mickey talked about in his welcome, is that his people, Aboriginal people, movement and exercise was built into their daily lives. So what we found through our consultation is that people wanted activity and being physically active to be the easy choice. And the way you do that is for it to be a habit and it to be built into your daily life. So that's one of our key visions. Our second thing is connected communities. And again, I think that if I cast my mind back to our longer COVID restrictions period, and if you remember when we were starting to come out of that, where our hotels and our pubs and our clubs were all still closed, and we were talking about sport resuming again, most often on the front page of the paper were people calling for sport to start up again. Economically, the pubs and clubs are super important, and it's people's jobs and livelihoods. but people missed sport. They missed their connections with community. So for me, that's never been stronger, is that, you know, the sport and recreation organisations and racing clubs as the heartbeat of the community. They provide so much more than just the opportunity to be involved in sport, recreation or racing. So that's super important. And then the third thing, and again, Wes Badhams, the director of SASI, will speak about this in a moment, is this notion of inspiration. So, you know, you do what you do with elite sport to inspire people. We've got an Olympics and a Paralympic Games coming up in less than 100 days. Those moments in time create great opportunities to inspire people to participate and to make our community proud. And again, when I talk about that, if we remember back to, if you're as old as I am, to the time when the Adelaide Crows were winning premierships, the Thunderbirds were winning premierships, the 36ers were winning premierships, the Adelaide Lightning were winning premierships. The city was on fire. The city was really buoyant, and that has such an ability to inspire people, to make them feel good about themselves and make them feel proud about where they live. So the connection with the using of our elite, and that sounds terrible, but taking our elite athletes, our assets that we have there, to really be community focused and inspire the community is something that we're really taking on as a challenge for this next strategic plan. So if we move to the next slide, so these are our key pillars, which I'll just skim over, but again, they go into a little bit more detail. Active Lives flows down, and in a moment we'll hear more about all of these. Places and spaces, clearly that's been a massive emphasis for us recently with huge investment, but it doesn't stop there. We need to be positioning ourselves for not just the current needs of our community, but the future needs of our community. Sporting excellence, again, I've spoken about that. Performing on the national stage, the ability to use that performance to inspire people. Strategic partnerships is another key one. It's been said before, I think the Minister made the point, we are a small agency, and we can only achieve our goals and our aspirations with all of you and with other partners, local government partners, other state government partners. So strategic partnerships are super important if we're actually going to achieve the outcomes that we've set ourselves in the Game On document and also flowing through to our strategic plan. And finally, Tim's favourite area, business performance. So they're our key pillars. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to invite Justin Stevens, who's our Senior Manager of Sector Capability, who is going to go through the Active Lives pillar for you.
I'm always having to do this after you, Kylie. That's all good. Thanks, Kylie. Thanks for the introduction. As Kylie said, my name is Justin Stevens. I'm the Senior Manager of Sector Capability, and my team is responsible for working with the sector to build the capability and capacity of the sector. We're responsible now for the implementation of Game On, which is super exciting. We have the racing portfolio in our function, so it's great to see the racing codes here. And we also administer the Boxing and Martial Arts Act. So the team is kept really busy, which is great. Now, I have the pleasure of talking you through the Active Lives pillar today, and I'll also provide you some information on some of the work that's currently progressing in this space. So what have we got? Okay. So, our strategic goal. Movement, play and performance is embedded into the daily lives of South Australians. What is our role? What we will do is develop policy, programs and initiatives with our partners, and we've heard that word a lot already, to get South Australians active. So as Kylie and the Minister have both talked about, for me the key word in our role is partners. To achieve our strategic goals, we must work with our partners, and we must strategically work with everyone in this room here tonight. And this is why it's great to see such a variety of attendees in the room from a variety of different organisations, not just from the sport and recreation organisations, but from local government, not-for-profits, the racing codes, etc. It's great to see. Because I'm very confident that by establishing mutually beneficial partnerships, we will see the dial of inactivity move in the right direction. Slide 2. Okay. There are 5 key strategies in the Active Live pillar. So let's run through them. Strategy 1, support children and youth to move and play more. So what will we do? We will work with South Australian youth to understand how they want to move, play and perform. And we will prioritise actions to reverse the decline of children and youth movement, play and performance. So an example of what we're doing right now in this space is the Game On Youth project that Michelle Crisp is leading. If Michelle's in the room, put up your hand, I can't see you. Why is youth a priority? We know there are high dropout rates in sport. We know there are low participation rates in physical activity. Only 26% of children and 14% of South Australian teenagers meet the National Physical Activity Guidelines. That's scary. We also acknowledge that the statewide consultation that we've recently undertaken in 2019 did not engage directly with youth. From memory, I think we only had 2 youth aged 13 to 17 attend the face-to-face consultations. So we want to use a strong evidence base to help Oars better meet the needs and aspirations of South Australian children and young people. So what are we doing right now? We are currently undertaking targeted consultation with cohorts of Year 9 and Year 11 students in secondary schools in the North, South, Central and Regional South Australia. We're also reviewing and summarising literature in relation to young people, and we've also established our Thinkers Group to help drive this work. And finally, we'll be surveying young people to test those ideas that have been identified through this work. So what will the outcome be of this work? A development of a youth action plan that will align to and build on the Game On recommendations. The Game On Youth Action Plan will ensure that there are specific and relevant actions for our young people. Quite interestingly, already we are starting to see the nuances between asking an adult what a child or youth wants to do and what the barriers might be versus asking the young people themselves. Now, I did see that the Commissioner was registered. Helen Connolly. Is Helen here? No. Okay. The Commissioner for Children and Young People, Helen Connolly, did register tonight, and I was going to basically put a shout out to say we look forward to continuing to work with Helen and her team as we progress this work. Strategy 2, devise Club of the Future to improve community experiences. So what will we do? We will co-design the benchmark for clubs as community hubs, and we will explore innovative ways for clubs to deliver quality experiences, share resources, services and facilities, and increase affordability and promote contemporary approaches to volunteering. So what we're doing right now. Our Club of the Future project that we're working on aims to address the key trends and issues outlined in Game On, and aims to guide South Australian clubs to adapt to current and future needs to ensure they continue to thrive. Our vision for a Club of the Future is to be innovative, technology savvy and sustainable, identifying ways to work smarter but not harder. We will also be engaging with our partners to promote case studies of clubs and organisations from all our partners who are delivering elements to key focus areas of the Club of the Future. So if you'd like to hear more about this project and how you can be involved, please catch me afterwards because it's some exciting times. Strategy 3, activate movement and play in our regions. Noting regions refers to areas outside of metropolitan South Australia. Metropolitan Adelaide. What will we do? We will partner to stimulate more activity in the regions through targeted infrastructure and program investment. Regional South Australia is a key focus in this new strategic plan. Having lived in the regions, having worked in roles that support the regions, this strategy really excites me. So to gain some traction, we're engaging with key strategic partners from within government and from outside to gain a better understanding of how we can invest in our regions to have the greatest impact. Now, we do have representatives from the regions scattered around the room today, and we do have representatives online, so a shout out to you all for joining us today. Strategy 4, increase opportunities for movement and play for all South Australians. Again, I'll say, what will we do? We will partner and invest to motivate and provide opportunities for South Australians to make daily activity a habit. What are we doing right now? Well, we've developed a plan which I hope you're all aware of by now called Game On, Getting South Australia Moving, following significant statewide consultation. For those who aren't aware of Game On outlines a forward-looking strategy to ensure physical activity, movement and play fit seamlessly into the lives of South Australians. The challenging but really exciting part of Game On right now is the implementation, which sits with our office. 2 examples of how we're progressing the Game On agenda include establishing a cross-government Game On strategic government group comprising of senior representatives to provide oversight of Game On delivery across relevant government departments. And again, a shout out to all the representatives in the room today from the Game On strategic governance group. We've also implemented a new partnership grant program. Through the partnerships program, Oars is seeking Game On partnerships that will support projects that align with Game On by addressing issues and barriers and or capitalising on opportunities. So the first round of the partnerships program has now closed. However, I encourage everyone in the room to start thinking and talking now about opportunities to partner with other organisations to deliver innovative initiatives for the next round. And the last strategy is enable recreation, sport and racing organisations to thrive. What will we do? We will empower and, where necessary, facilitate the policy or systems required to enable sport, recreation and racing organisations to thrive. We remain committed and invested in supporting the sport, recreation and racing sectors. And the very last slide, there are 2 key projects being showcased in the new plan, one of which I've already talked to. They are the development of an action plan that explores youth inactivity and provides a pathway to influence increased youth movement and play, and the development of contemporary systems to support volunteer organisations to manage and deliver their activities. So the final part is our targets. So what are we trying to achieve in the Active Lives pillar? Adults achieving activity targets to increase to 70% by 2025, currently sitting at 66% that are not meeting the National Physical Activity Guidelines. Children achieving targets to increase to 30% by 2025, currently sits at 26%. Youth achieving activity targets to increase to 18% by 2025, currently sits at 14%. And finally, increase the percentage of South Australians that volunteer more than once per year for sport or recreation to 33% by 2025. So that's it for the Active Lives, but my final point is, just prior to this session, we facilitated a COVID workshop with Dr. Chris Leese, who was South Australia's SA Health's Deputy Chief Health Officer, bit of a tongue twister. So I just want to shout out to everyone that attended that session. And for those that did not but would like to be updated, please come and chat to me afterwards. But that's enough from me. I'm now going to hand over to Adam Trotman, Director of Infrastructure and Planning, to run through the Places and Spaces theme. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Right height, I think. What a time to be involved. Infrastructure and planning, places and spaces. It's probably the most exciting time I can recall in the industry in South Australia. And I guess I've got the privilege of joining a wonderful team to deliver what's being committed for the state. So I think with the plan that we've got coming up, we're actually well underway in achieving a lot of what's in the plan already, and I'm looking forward to it because it means it's going to be a very short 5 years for me. On the way in, you might have noticed, as the Minister pointed out, Memorial Drive redevelopment is well underway. We've got the State Centre for Football that kicked off construction. I saw Michael here earlier. And as well as that, the Minister has announced the upgrade to Stage 2 for the Netball SA Stadium and the SA Athletics Stadium upgrade as well. And it's just a small glimpse of the investment that's being made into infrastructure, planning and effectively what's our places and spaces in South Australia. So our role, it's really to plan and invest, and obviously the investment side of it's going very well with over $200 million already committed or allocated. But it's more important than ever, as Kylie mentioned, about planning and getting the planning right. These things don't happen overnight, And any of the sports or recreation organisations or racing that have been through any of these infrastructure projects, they'll tell you it's not a short process. You know, if you're looking at doing something in 2, 3, 4 years' time, you want to be starting to plan now for that. And so we'll take a greater role in assisting organisations and working through the planning side of things with you. I know I've touched base with a couple of sports already today, and the team that we've got at the office, and Anthea Shem is here tonight from the team as well. But we've got a really great group of experts. I'll call them experts, they won't, but of people that are here to help you and to work through the process with you. We'll just change to the next slide. So with the release of the infrastructure plan, it's really given us a greater opportunity to start leading the planning and the provision of spaces and places throughout the communities. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to jump online and check out the Office for Recreation, Sport and Racing's infrastructure, state sport and recreation infrastructure plan, and the registration process for projects that you might be contemplating. You can register them as soon as it becomes an idea, and what it enables us to do is to start getting it on our radar so that when government's looking at making investment decisions, they're not looking at making an investment decision tomorrow for a project that you've thought of today. They're looking at 3, 4, 5 years' time and what that commitment's going to be. And between now and then, we need to get the plans right. We need to get the business case right. We need to make sure that it's bulletproof and that effectively they'll be sustainable facilities. So that's something that we're really going to be focusing on over the next few years. We're very fortunate that with the release of the State Infrastructure Plan, that we've had a number of projects already committed to. And as I mentioned before, that's just some of them. And what it means is that we can actually start looking a little bit further now and saying, well, what are the next projects going to be? Not that we can take on too many more. It's pretty hectic at the moment, I can tell you. But we're also looking at how we support local government organisations, sport and recreation organisations, schools, to really build on their places and spaces and to create really good opportunities for anybody to be active in those spaces and to really get their game on and be physically active. I'll move on to the next one. So the key priorities, as I said, this is what's fantastic about this plan, is that we're in 2021, but with the announcements that it's been made, we're really well on our way to achieving a lot of our targets. We're going to be progressing the infrastructure plan, and it's a live, breathing, living document. So it's not, yes, it's a point in time, but what we would be encouraging you to do is to, if you do have a project that you've got in mind or that you are planning for, get online, register it so that we've got it on our radar. We can start working with you. We can start understanding what is it that is your priority. Sometimes you have to be patient though, because as I said, there are a number of projects in the pipeline. Again, I encourage all organisations, and this is what we'll be working on through our plan, is to look at what's coming up in 5, 10, 15 years' time. The projects that we've got, incredible amount for the next 3 to 4 years. What's happening beyond that point in time? We want to know those projects now. Probably something that came out through the infrastructure plan is that there is an opportunity for improved planning, and that's going to be one of our great focuses with the office, is how do we work with local governments, with sport and recreation organisations and the racing industry to really look ahead and to start planning for what the demand analysis says, what future growth looks like, and where there are gaps, so that we can start identifying where there might be opportunities with upcoming work. We've also obviously looking at the State Sports Park Master Plan, which is currently out for consultation, and that plan is pretty exciting. It's really looking at building on the investment that was made a number of years ago now in terms of the Superdrome and the State Hockey Centre, and as the Minister announced, the National Aerodynamics Centre. It really gives us an opportunity to change the dynamic of that area, and we're pretty excited about what that might look like in the future. Again, it's going to take a little bit more planning, and we're certainly looking forward to that evolving over the coming years. And I know the Minister's very keen on seeing that delivered sooner rather than later, so I know the whip will be cracking on that. I think just the last one, if we can, that last target's there. What's really interesting is reading it, it talks about delivering 10 projects, or 10 priority projects from the state infrastructure plan. I can't count them up, but we're pretty well on our way there already, and there's no doubt we'll be achieving that well ahead of time. So I think my message to you is that as an office, we're really here to, over the coming years, and as part of this plan, is to part of our strategic plan, is to really build the planning component within the sport and within the recreation organisations, local government, education, and industry as a whole, to really put you in the best position possible so that we've got sustainable facilities that are affordable and provide greater opportunities for people to participate, and also to participate at an elite level if that's where their path takes them. So I think that's probably what I wanted to touch on with the places and spaces. It's actually really sells itself, this part of the strategy, and there's no doubt that the level of commitment that we're seeing at the moment demonstrates where the priorities are. So on that note, I'll introduce Wes Badams, Director of the South Australian Sports Institute, and he'll take you through the sporting excellence pillar.
Thank you, Adam. We're about the right size. Sporting excellence, you could say, is code or synonymous with high-performance sport, or probably SASSI in South Australia. And whilst tonight is indicating a number of significant shifts in the emphasis of the office, it'd be fair to say that the core business of high-performance sport, while they continue to hold Olympic and Paralympic and Commonwealth Games, probably doesn't change in its fundamental focus. But we do have a number of ambitious projects on our hit list, and some changes in our nuances and the way that we are choosing to interface going forward with the community in the broader sports sector. So fundamentally, we'll continue to identify, develop and support our local South Australian athletes to achieve at the national and the international level. And as we say, it's about South Australians taking on and beating the world's best. And we only need to reflect back to the last Olympic Games and think of Kyle Chalmers and the impact that had. And I think Kylie has well and truly summarised that notion of inspiration to inspire the next generation of participants. How many of our Olympians do we hear say that I was watching the Olympic Games and saw so-and-so, and that made me think, that was something that maybe I wanted to pursue. And the other element is to try and more cohesively engage the community and having that as a catalyst to be more physically active and have it as a catalyst to engage more participants in our sports. Well, the last year, high performance sport, like everyone's, been pretty disrupted by COVID, and there's some pretty exciting prospects around the corner as well. So here we are, it's 2021, and we're still preparing for the Tokyo 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Go figure. And indeed, as Tim said earlier, we're 100 or less days from the Olympics and the Paralympics. At this point in time, it's also fascinating that only 80 Australian athletes have actually been selected to the expected team of 460 athletes. So in this next period of weeks, a lot of athletes still to be formally selected, many of them still wondering how they're going to get to what qualification event, if it exists. So it's been a really challenging time for them. And similarly on the Paralympic side, nationally there's only been 10 athletes actually selected formally to the team of the anticipated team of about 160, and only one South Australian athlete in that midst. Notwithstanding, we're still expecting to have strong representation, 50 or 60 South Australian in the Olympic team and 10 to 15 in the Paralympic team. We expect them to perform well, and who knows really who's able to predict form on the current moment, because we just haven't seen people competing. It's just incredible how much of a surprise it's going to be. So if we move to the next slide, in terms of key strategies, a lot of it relates to the way we do our core business, but there are some key shifts in our focus and emphasis. And whilst we want to continue to grow and influence the success that we can have from our South Australian athletes, doing well nationally, being selected to national teams and competing with pride and generating inspiration at that international level and at the Olympic and Paralympic Games, we also are conscious of wanting to grow and strengthen our value proposition and our impact and our contribution to the community and to wider sport. And in the midst of this, an integral element is a project that is in our plan, and it probably makes us all nervous, but the Minister mentioned our commitment to try and work hard to build a case for the redevelopment of a new high-performance hub. And that will be a key proposition that we hope to be able to put forward to the government and to have its merit demonstrated. And indeed, with the likely prospect of the 2032 Brisbane Olympic Games, it's really a very exciting time ahead for high-performance sport, for which we need to plan and get ready. And so we think with better design facilities, we can be better placed not only to improve the quality and the services that we already provide, but in fact consciously and deliberatively have a much stronger interface with the communities, with the schools and with sport itself. And it will also give us capacity to broaden some of the foundations that we've already started, which is to provide greater support and access to our National League teams, as Kylie talked about earlier, that really are the shop front of our high-level sport in this state. And that's the product that actually drives the interest from the media, which drives the profile for the sport, drives the participation for the sport, drives membership. And so we're looking to see how we can better engage and support with those National League teams. So in summary, so our key projects are core business of getting athletes onto teams and performing well, but it's also that priority to build the case and try and get built, and infrastructure is a strong success story at the moment of a new high-performance hub, so that we can improve what we do and increase the reach and the impact of SASI, improve the quality of the environments that our athletes get to train in and our coaches work with, our staff work in, and that so at a national level we're highly competitive in those levels of facilities. And we, of course, want to continue and grow our partnerships with sports. All of our programs are run in partnership with the national and the state sporting organisation, and that's critical, and the work that we need to do with you and work with you to help develop the pathways and develop the plans to develop better coaching, better athlete pathways and better performances. And finally, it's a critical part of us continuing to develop our national partnerships so that we maintain our relevance. We're a small state, we're less than 7% of the national population. We do pretty well in high performance sport with both the level of performance and representation, but also we want to be a key influencer in the national system, which is driven by the AIS, partnering up with the NSOs. And it's projects like where we've partnered with the AIS to get the National Centre for Sport Aerodynamics, or the Sport Wind Tunnel out at State Sports Park, which are really significant achievements, and that's what the future looks like as we look to 2032, is building the strength of our local workforce, our talent, our strategic relationships and our investments with partners so that we can leverage and get the maximum benefits. So high performance sport is pretty exciting. 2032, it's out of my reach, but it really sets up an amazing era for high performance sport, and we think this plan will lay an important foundation to head us in that direction. I now welcome Kylie back.
There we go again. Thanks, Wes. As the boss, I got to pick which one of the pillars I got to present, and I picked strategic partnerships, and I picked it because whilst I'm committed to all of the pillars, I do think that this is the most important one. And pleasingly, I think it's probably the one that I'm going to have to speak about the least, because I think if someone was probably noting down the number of times each of the others said partners, we would have called bingo and we would have been out the door by now. So clearly, it's probably the biggest point about this strategic plan is that we cannot do this alone. There are very few things that we can do on our own. We must have partners. Those partnerships must be strong. They must be authentic. We simply need them. So in some ways, this is a bit moot. You've probably heard all about it. But fundamental to the partnerships is, at the end of the day, community is the most important first word in that we have done extensive community consultation, and what we're trying to do is respond to the needs of the community. And there's no doubt we're better together than we are apart. So the strategic partnerships are really, really critical. And obviously, there are so many stakeholders, as I said, non-government, government, local government, who are all such important partners in us getting this work done. So, you know, we see our role is a bit of a corralling role in terms of, you know, sport, recreation, physical activity, movement, play, performance, racing, all of those things. And again, you know, the language is you'll notice it's more encompassing in terms of the way we speak about people being physically active, that there's so many different ways that people can consume that activity so that it's part of their day. If you can skip on to the next slide. Our key strategies, and I've worked out that there is a screen up there, but I can't see it, so it's no help. Getting old is not real good. So obviously you've heard many, many times about Game On, and Game On is all about partnerships. We have set up a Game On governance group, which is key senior people across all of the government agencies who have some sort of a link in terms of people being physically active, and you know, from people outside of government, the number of times the frustrations being expressed that, you know, who do I go to for this or for that, or, you know, that each agency's got a little bit of skin in the game, and, you know, no one's saying they've got all skin in the game. So hopefully through that group we can actually tackle some things that, you know, have outcomes for all of the agencies, and fundamentally deliver better outcomes for the community. So that's a key part of the strategy. Another significant one that came through again strongly in the consultation is transport, and active transport is one of the ways that people can build physical activity into their daily routine and could do it in a pretty cost-effective way. So again, we talk about equity and the ability of people from lower socioeconomic areas to be physically active. It's a really equitable way to consume your physical activity. And we are so fortunate that we've got a minister who is the Minister for Transport and Infrastructure and Sport and Recreation. So the planets aligned, that's a, you know, it's a key priority for the Department of Infrastructure and Transport, and obviously for us in terms of active transport. And then the investment stuff. So, you know, garnering, we've got a bit of money, others have got money. It's actually about how do we pool our investment to get a better outcome. So that's the key in terms of the partnership program, which again, I don't need to go into it again. Justin spoke about it. That's the key in all of that. How do we harness all of the resources that people have, that we can pull them together and get a better outcome? So the first project that we have up there is something we've been exploring for a while, and that is that we think, for a whole variety of reasons, South Australia is in a real position to almost be the epicentre for cycling and bicycles in Australia. So we do have the National Cycling Program. We have a great velodrome. You know, we are looking at the Aeronautical Centre, the National Aeronautical Centre. But beyond that, we're flat. We've got amazing recreational trails. Our network of trails are significant from not just a physical activity point of view of us who live here, but from a tourism perspective as well. We have the iconic Tour Down Under that attracts people every year from interstate and overseas, and also provides that inspiration for, you know, how often do you see around January that the number of people on bikes around the roads goes up? They're everywhere. People get inspired by that. So we think that South Australia is uniquely positioned to be the go-to place for cycling. And with that, we think there comes a bike economy. So it's the stuff the Minister spoke about. What businesses can we talk to? What businesses can we attract here that actually contributes to the economy of South Australia using cycling and bikes as the draw card? So that's something we want to look at. Again, you look at all of the agencies that I've just spoken with government who have a stake in that. You've got the active transport bit of it, you've got the tourism bit of it, you've got the income generation and the industry and trade component. So all of those things are about the partnerships to deliver value for the community. Again, the cross-government game on, we've spoken about. Ultimately, our targets are about getting stuff delivered that potentially delivers on the game outcomes but harnesses the work of other agencies. And also obviously that bike component, so that people have the opportunities to be more active through the use of bikes and the flow-on benefit that gives to our community. So again, that's probably just a repeat of most of the things that you've heard, but I don't think that's a bad thing, because I want the message to be super, super clear that we want partnerships. We are interested in partnerships. We want you to speak to us, speak to others, bring the ideas to the table in terms of how we can work together better. So that is now the opportunity to pass back to Tim, who's going to talk you through the last pillar.
Thanks, Kylie. Look, now for the real sexy side of our business. Look, you've been really patient. We're probably running a little bit behind time. I'll move through this fairly quickly. Largely this is about our internal controls and practices and systems that we get in place and get right, so that we can deliver all the other things without worrying about the noise that those things can create. So I might just jump to the next. I won't read through these. You can grab them out of the plan. There's some copies over there. If we go to the next slide. So to inspire South Australians to adopt active lives through engaging communications. I'm sure you would have seen that we've become a lot more active on our socials. Our socials have been better. We're now active on LinkedIn and Instagram. If you're not following us on those, jump on and get that content as well. We've bolstered our comms team. And we're currently developing a new website, so that's something to look out for in the near future. You know, emerging sector issues and trends through research. I mean, you would have seen the Game On document, the Active Live survey. It's already been mentioned that we're now looking at a Game On Youth document, so a plan specifically targeted to move the youth numbers. You know, integrated response to corporate systems. I mean, largely they're internal. One that you would have seen would be Smarty Grants, online portal for grant applications. Delivering grant programs that drive the achievement of our strategic goals. Most of you would have seen the grants review that got released 6 or so months ago. We're about to announce the first round of the infrastructure grants out of that one, and the partnership grants out of that grants review. Following that, we'll be opening almost immediately for the next round of infrastructure grants. So those of you that have infrastructure ideas, as Adam said, come and talk to them, and we'll get them into that round. And empowering investing in our people, I mean, that goes without saying. You need good people to deliver these things, as we see in the sector all the time. So probably nothing to elaborate on that one. Our key projects, to improve and understand and determine options, reducing the cost of participation in sport. This is something that comes up all the time. It is often put up as the number one issue to people who don't play sport. We really want to get to the bottom of that and do some work around, you know, what does the cost of sport mean? It's probably something that you're probably all interested in out there in Sportland. And implementation of a strategic comms plan. We've recognised that comms is a really important part of our business, and talking to the sector and to other sectors than just sport. Obviously, we're looking to partner with different people. They need to know who we are and what we can do and what they can do for us. So rolling out a strategic comms plan is something that we'll be looking to do over the next little while. The targets in there, I'll let you read those. We'll achieve them over the period, I'm sure. So that's the end of the presentation on the pillars. Really, we'll just say, as I said before, the strategic plans at the door. Please grab one on your way out, but don't leave straight away because we're about to jump into a networking session. But before I do close the formalities, I just wanted to thank the OAR staff who helped put tonight on. Obviously, these things don't just happen. From booking venues to managing guest lists to pulling together the presentations and the videos, the running sheets, the talking notes, everything that goes together. Really excellent effort. So I know that a lot of them are in the room. So I won't name them because I will miss someone, but I would like to thank them and just a quick round of applause for them because it's a really well done job. So with that, I'll close the formalities and we'll make some new strategic partnerships. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.